Hello everyone, I'm not supposed to be making this video, I know I'm supposed to be making my 3K special, but if I'm gonna be real, I got sick of scripting, so I decided to do one of these instead. Like my cloud video, which went nuts by the way, this video is gonna be unscripted, completely off the top of my head. You guys seem to like what I did last time with it, and it is a hell of a lot easier than scripting. Anyways, this one, as you can probably tell, is what if DEKU had sky manipulation. A lot of you won't know what this power is. It's a pretty niche JJK power that only comes up like one time, I'm pretty sure. I'm not gonna get into the details, but it's gonna kind of work like the Tremor fruit. Before I get into it, thank you to JustOM, the GOAT, for making this thumbnail. It is not easy to find PNGs for this, trust me, I've had a look. If you want to check him out, go into the description, and while you're down there, check out the podcast, drop a like, drop a sub, all that YouTube stuff. Enough yap, let's get into it. Now, DEKU's going to be born just like usual. Same hospital, same doctor, same nurse, the whole 9 yards. But, unlike canon, DEKU's going to have blue hair in this. Blue hair that's spiked up in every angle, with piercing blue eyes. A look that was completely different to both Hisashi and Inko. At first they're confused by this, Hisashi getting kinda mad, you know, until the doctor would explain that it's probably quirk related. Due to this, they take DEKU home and nothing comes of it. Hisashi goes back overseas to be a bum, and Inko is left alone. In his earlier years, DEKU would always be smiling, a bubbly, bright personality, and in all honesty, just a bit of a standout kid, you know. I mean, he has blue hair and blue eyes, like, he stands out like a sore thumb. One thing Inko did notice though, was DEKU's weird obsession with the sky. Every time they went outside, DEKU would just sit and stare, saying no words at all, almost entranced by the sky. She kinda just figured he was spacing out or something, making animals in the clouds or something, but in reality, it was much deeper. DEKU's technique already engraving itself into him. From there, DEKU will grow up, going from age like 2 to age 4-ish. In this time, nothing happens. His quirk hasn't awoken yet, and he's just been a homebody the entire time, chilling with Inko, you know, until he eventually gets put into schooling. Now, unlike usual, he doesn't get put into the same kindy, Bakugo and him not meeting each other in this timeline. DEKU growing up in another school, which this time he doesn't get bullied in. I'm gonna gloss over his childhood a little bit because it's not really gonna be interesting. All you gotta know is that DEKU was a late bloomer, and that his quirk awakened around the age of 6, one day waking up and randomly getting a bunch of info that floods into his brain. Going over to Dr. Luttrell and getting it confirmed. As they walk inside, Dr. Luttrell would look at him. Ah, Inko, and Midoriya. What a surprise, what can I do for you today? Inko looks at him, doing a little bit of an NPC chat before staring back at DEKU. I know it's a little bit late, but can we get his quirk checked? He said this morning that he had a bunch of information flooding into his brain. I don't know what that means, but I think it's his quirk. Dr. Luttrell stares at her before looking at DEKU. Wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I've never heard of the whole information flooding your brain thing, but maybe his quirk just works differently. He would nod, starting to jot some things down a little bit before putting his hand onto DEKU's shoulder, staring him into his left eye as eventually a video and a video game description appears into his head. He would sit silent for a little bit, kind of like taking it all in, jotting some more things down before staring back at DEKU. Ah, Midoriya, wow, you have a great quirk. Could you tell me what the information was that flooded your brain? DEKU nods a little bit. From what I could tell, I have the ability to touch the sky or something. I don't really know more than that. The doctor nods, staring at him and smiling. Well, yeah, pretty much. He looks at Inko before looking at DEKU. Your quirk's name is Sky Manipulation. As the name says, you can manipulate the sky. Inko's shocked by this. Wait, the sky? Dr. Luttrell nodding as he continues. Yes, it seems he has the ability to turn the sky into a surface, turning it into a cloth-like or hardened state. Inko confused by this. Hardened state? What does that even mean? The doctor stops and just decides to show her instead, telling Inko and DEKU to get up as he takes them outside. As DEKU walks outside, they see the sky around him, the light blue sky littered by clouds. DEKU seeing this feels kinda warm, looking around him as Dr. Luttrell would try and get him to activate his quirk, which at first wouldn't really work until DEKU would remember back to the information that flooded into his brain. He thinks back, wait, I need to grab it, don't I? Inko and Dr. Luttrell watching as DEKU puts his hand up, staring at the blue sky before closing his fist around it. The two watching in shock as it begins to crumple under the weight of it, looking like he just grabbed onto a tablecloth or something. DEKU seeing this is surprised. Whoa, I did that? DEKU smiling as Dr. Luttrell would start talking from the back. Yes, you did, DEKU. As you can see, you can manipulate the sky like that. You can grab onto it and treat it like a surface. DEKU would just start playing around with it, you know, starting to mess with the space around him, which Inko and the doctor would feel, stopping it before it gets too serious, going back inside and explaining the rest of his quirk to Inko and DEKU. While he does that, I'm going to explain it to you. If you don't know how sky manipulation works, it's pretty much that. Pretend the sky outside was like a tablecloth, right? DEKU can grab onto the tablecloth and can move it however he wants. So if someone were to shoot a gun at him, he could watch the bullet come towards him and manipulate the sky around him so the bullet would curve around him, you know? He could grab onto the cloth and like shift it around himself, making it so the attack never hits. Along with this, he can harden the sky, letting him make shields and stuff, which is going to make him OP eventually. Anyways, from there, DEKU and Inko will be sent home. DEKU just stunned with how his quirk works. Inko a little bit scared of it. I'm going to do another time skip because, once again, the childhood isn't really that exciting. In this time, Deku unlocks the power to fly, along with just getting better at his quirk, you know. I'm not going to go into too much detail yet. Time skipping to the end of high school. The final day, Deku walks into class, staring at the class around him. All of them low-key liking him in this time. He was chill, plus he had a quirk this time. It just took a little bit longer to unlock, you know. Sitting and chilling as the teacher would come in, handing out the forms instead of doing the whole "I know you want to be heroes" thing because, you know, he's not a snitch. And waiting until after class to ask Deku himself if he was going to UA, which Deku would of course say yes to. The teacher in this timeline giving him props and wishing him luck, you know, because he's seen his quirk in action. From there the bell would ring and everyone would be let go. Deku in this timeline not getting caught up with the sludge villain and instead walking home. This is where the first change would happen. As he walks home, he walks past the school, Aldera Junior High, which, if you don't know, is the same school that Bakugo went to. On the final day of school, Deku would walk past it, staring inwards and watching as Bakugo's class burst from out the door, all following behind Bakugo, who was blasting explosions in his hands, all gassing him up from behind. "Damn, Bakugo, your quirk is so cool. I know you're gonna go to UA and be number one." Someone else from the back's like, "Yeah, you could probably give all my back shots." Bakugo taking it all in, you know, going like, "Huh, damn straight extras. You might not be strong, but at least you got that right." Sitting there and just being Bakugo, you know, until he would spot someone. Spotting Deku staring in from the outside of the gate. As soon as he clocks him, he smiles. "Well, who's this extra? Hey, you!" Deku stops and stares at him, pointing a finger to himself and like looking confused, you know. Bakugo laughing. "Yeah, you dumbass. What are you sitting here looking at me for? You want an autograph or something?" Deku, hearing this, can't hold it anymore. He starts bursting out laughing, staring at the rest of them. "Me? Want your autograph? Who the hell even are you?" Bakugo, hearing this, takes it as a sign of disrespect. "What the hell did you say to me, extra? Hold my stuff." He like throws his stuff to one of his goonies behind him, starting to crack his neck as he walks towards Deku. "I'm the next number one. You better remember that." Deku laughing at him once more. "You gonna be number one? Nah, you give off more Endeavor vibes. I think you're gonna be number two." Bakugo, hearing this, is just appalled. "Endeavor? Ah, that's it." He rushes right into Deku, blasting off explosions in his hands, flying at him top speeds and about to send his signature right hook at Deku. Deku stands and sits completely still, staring as Bakugo throws his right hook, palm exploding and sending it flying towards Deku. Deku sees this, waiting until the very last second, watching the explosion go off as Deku's hand begins to crumple. The sky in front of Deku and the students begins to fall, cracking in the bottom right of everyone's vision as Deku pulls his hand up. As he does so, Bakugo's explosion is completely nullified, his arms stretched and contorted weirdly. Deku sat smiling, completely untouched. Well, trying to fight me over some words, are you? And you really expect to be number one?" Bakugo, seeing this, freaked out. What the hell happened to my arm?" He pulls his arm back, seeing it go back to normal. "It doesn't hurt or anything. What the hell?" He stares back at Deku. "What the hell is your quirk?" Watching as Deku begins to fly up into the air. "That is none of your business. Look, I'm not here to fight. I just wanted to see what all the commotion was." All the students behind Bakugo watching with their mouths completely agape. Bakugo about to fly up until the space around Deku begins contorting, shifting strangely as Deku begins to pull it over himself like a blanket. Him watching as Deku completely disappears, kind of looking like Obito that one time he used Kamui, you know? Disappearing into thin air without a trace left behind. In reality, he was just like floating around, you know, using that sky that he manipulated before to hide himself, flying off and eventually getting back home. Due to this interaction, Deku figured out that he needed more offensive moves. He could fly, his defense was good, and he could code himself to make himself invisible, but his offense still lacked. Knowing this and knowing he had 10 months, he decided to start training it, going out to the forest behind his house and beginning to train by himself. If you're wondering what happened to the sludge villain, by the way, All Might caught up to him. Because Deku wasn't there, he caught up to him, smashed him, and put him into the bottle. And because when he flew up, he didn't get grabbed, he didn't drop them. Along with this, Bakugo didn't get done dirty, and instead he goes to the arcade and probably tries to like blow it up or something, I don't know. From there, Deku would just go and train, going into the forest like I said before, and beginning to start his offense training. At first he just does like basic stuff, like punching trees and stuff, doing push-ups, which would last for about 2 months. Deku getting kinda ripped in this time until eventually he would decide to focus on his quirk instead. Around this time he would start watching One Piece, which exists in the MHA universe, I'm gonna say. While he was watching One Piece, he found his favorite character, a character by the name of Whitebeard, a character with the ability to crack the earth and the air around him. Seeing this, Deku finally gets an idea that eventually spirals into his main attack, Thin Icebreaker. One day Deku will go back out about the 3-month mark, going into the forest and trying to replicate Whitebeard's move, trying to strike at the air around him. But every time he did, all it did was distort his arm. Lost and kind of frustrated, he once again goes to the drawing board, deciding to start focusing on his hardening aspect of his quirk, which is when he would finally put 2 and 2 together. Now, as I said before, Deku can harden the sky around him, Until this point, he's only really been doing it like a cloth, you know, using it more to distort people's attacks, and more as a defense mechanism, but that all changes with the hardening. At first, he finds out he can make like shields and stuff with it, which are decently hard. You know that guy that has the air quirk in Class 1B? They're about that hard, you know, making them by hardening the sky around him. Doing this, he comes across a very strange property of his, one that he'd been looking for ages now, the ability to crack the sky around him. When he was first testing this out around the 4-month mark, he had no clue how to do it. He made the wall too hard, and thus the impact was reduced, which is something that he works on for the rest of the 6 months, refining his technique more and more until eventually the UA entrance exam would come up. The day of the exam rolls around and Deku this timeline is ready. He wakes up nice and early that morning, cooking himself breakfast and stuff and doing hella stretches before getting his mum to drive him to UA. As he arrives there, he looks around the place, staring at everyone, looking at their quirks, seeing all the mutation types. He sees people like Uraraka walking in, about to walk inside until Bakugo, of all people, comes up from behind him. I remember that blue hair from anywhere. You know, we didn't get to run our ones out last time. How about I beat your ass right now? Deku, hearing this, slowly turns to look at him. Oh, it's you again? Man, I don't got time for you, bro. I'll talk to you when you get into UA. Once again, he turns back, walking back inside as Bakugo begins to scream from behind him. What the hell did you say to me? Turn back and look at me, nerd. Deku, though, keeps going. Everyone's staring at Bakugo as he begins to scream like a wild animal. Deku from there walking inside and finding a good spot in the exam away from Bakugo. Sitting his theory exam like you would think, and passing it with flying colours until eventually the practical lecture would be called out. Everyone being told to meet in the lecture hall to explain the second part of the exam. They would of course do so, meeting down there. In this timeline, no one starts anything. Deku's a lot more chill, and he isn't a nerd, so he isn't like muttering and stuff. And Bakugo is sat way away from Deku, so he doesn't fight or anything. Due to this, only Ida stands up, staring at present Mike and beginning his whole like, oh, this is egregious for an establishment like this, you know, like that. Until eventually their practical exam would be called out. Everyone getting a sheet of paper which correlated with the number, which correlated with which exam site they were going to. Deku in this timeline getting 2 instead of 1. This timeline being placed with Bakugo. Being completely unaware of this fact, Deku would get up, walking over to the exam site and just sitting at the front, you know, blissfully ignorant as Bakugo would come up from behind him. Well. Can't run from me now, can you, nerd? This must be some type of divine intervention. The gods have given me a second chance to embarrass you. Deku hearing this doesn't even turn around, pulling out his phone and starting to doom scroll a little bit until the doors in front of him begin to open. Right away he puts his hand up, waving Bakugo down before flying up into the air. Catch you on the other side! He jumps up into the air, making the sky below him solid before jumping off it like a building. He would soar up into the air, manipulating the sky around him to let him float, staring down the robots below him. I'm just glad we're outside for this, or I would have been cooked. From the side of his vision he sees the rest of the students coming out, deciding it's time to finally do something. Right away he jumps off the sky like before, flying down to a group of about 15 robots. Going in close as he hears explosions coming off from behind him. Don't you ignore me, you damn nerd! Seeing as Bakugo explodes closer and closer to him, about to steal the 15 robots until Deku holds his hand out, touching the sky in front of Bakugo and hardening it. Bakugo, unaware of this, runs into it and slams into it like a brick wall, hurting his head and falling onto the floor. Looking back up as Deku begins to cock his fist back. You sit there like a good little boy and watch me destroy these robots. Bakugo about to say something until Deku throws his fist forward, watching as Deku's fist collides with the air in front of the robots. At first he laughs, thinking that Deku didn't even hit the robots, until he sees the air in front of him crack. A horrific screeching sound coming from the air like it was being twisted and contorted. The air popping like bubble wrap in front of him as the robots begin to get destroyed. The air in front of him clapping like a sonic boom, slamming like a wave through every single robot, tearing it limb from limb. Bakugo seeing this is shocked. What the hell is this kid's quirk? Still on the floor as Deku jumps back into the sky, flying off once more to go get more robot points. As he does this, Bakugo gets more and more mad. Oh, that damn nerd showing me up over and over again. Screw this. If I don't get more points than him, then I don't deserve to be a hero. He jumps up from the floor, maxing out his quirk as he begins to destroy robots like a mad animal. Deku on the other side of the exam site feels every explosion that Bakugo throws, feeling the floor shake with every impact. Damn kid, calm down. For the next 10 minutes, Bakugo and Deku go on a complete rampage, destroying about 3/4 of the robots in the entire exam site. Bakugo would get about 140 points this time, and Deku would get about 112. What was different though is that Deku helped people along the way, using his quirk to help like dodge attacks for people, you know, forcing the robots to like not be able to hit him, not just being a barbarian like Bakugo. And due to this, he would get an extra 50 hero points, putting his score up to like 160 something. I don't know, I don't remember that shit, and I'm not rewatching it. Putting him at number 1 on the hero exam. On the way out, Bakugo catches up to Deku once more, exploding up to him and screaming for him to stop. Deku would do so, waiting and turning around to see Bakugo coming towards him. Oh great, this guy again. Bakugo catches up to him, laughing. So you hit that main move for me, did you? Don't think that means you're stronger than I am. We're just gonna have to wait for the exam results to come in, won't we? Then you'll see. You're gonna be my number 2. My endeavor. Deku hearing this laughs. Oh yeah, I forgot I said that. Well, shoot for the stars, I guess. As he says this, he jumps off, doing the same disappearing thing as he did before. Bakugo on the floor, completely fuming. Don't you run from me, you damn nerd! Watching as Deku disappeared into the sky once more. From there, the two of them would go home. Deku sitting and chilling, doom scrolling a little bit, playing a couple games, waiting a couple of weeks until finally the UA acceptance letter would come in. Deku seeing it has a huge smile on his face. Well, it finally came, did it? Right away he rushes down, going to grab it from the letterbox, rushing back inside and sitting with Inko to open it. As he does, a disc would fall out, rolling onto the table in front of him as a hologram would show up. I am here to show you your entrance exam results. Deku and Inko seeing this are shocked. All Might laughs. Yes, I'm here. Now, as you know, you passed the theory exam, and with flying colours too, might I add. Deku hearing this smiles, kind of proud of himself, listening as All Might would continue on. But what was more surprising was your practical exam results. To think there was a student out there with this much potential. Young man, you scored 160 points in the practical exam, almost setting a new record and getting an easy first place in the UA entrance exam. Deku hearing this smiles, thinking back to the conversation he had with Bakugo. Guess who's laughing now? Watching as the leaderboard would come up in front of him. Wait, what the hell's a rescue point? As he thinks this, All Might would begin talking up again. As you can probably see by the leaderboard, your hero points were split up into 2. One for destroying the mock villains, and another for hero points. As you can see, you got a solid 50 hero points. It shows like a bunch of clips of him like saving a bunch of people, All Might being like, how could a hero school not accept and reward people for this type of behavior? Young man, welcome to your hero academia. Inko hearing this is just super proud of Deku, giving him a hug and shouting him some KFC for dinner, Deciding the next day to go shopping for the stuff they needed for UA. Getting all that sorted and waiting another week or so until the UA clock would finally start. Deku about to start his first day at UA. He gets dropped off on the first day by Inko doing the whole love you sweetie thing as Deku would walk inside, staring around at the gate, now admitted as a student. With a big smile on his face, he walks through the hallways, people staring at him because of the way he looks. Deku asking for directions until eventually he finds the door to class 1A. As he finds it, he takes a huge breath in, staring the door down until he eventually opens it. As he opens it, he scans the classroom, seeing hella unfamiliar faces, a couple of familiar faces, and one that stuck out to him like a sore thumb. Oh, you've gotta be kidding. He's cut off by Bakugo staring at him. Wait, are you serious? I'm in his class too? Nah, teach, let me switch class. Aizawa up the front rolls his eyes, standing up. Alright, calm down. Now that everyone's here, I can finally start introducing myself. My name is Aizawa and I'm your homeroom teacher. Put these on and meet me outside. We're about to do a test. The class is confused by this, watching as Deku walks back out the door again, not even getting to sit down as the rest of the class would come out the door as well. Some of the people catching up to Deku and beginning to talk to him. Kirishima coming up to him. I remember you. Whoa, you saved me in the entrance exam. Hey, thanks for that. Also, what's your quirk? Deku hearing this kind of laughs, about to explain it until Bakugo comes from behind as well. Shut up, extra. Hey, Deku. Deku stops in his tracks, turning to look at Bakugo. What do you want? Bakugo smiling. I got more villain points than you. That means I'm better than you, nerd. Deku still looking at him, gets kind of mad. Nah, you saw the leaderboard. I clearly got number 1. Bakugo snaps back. Hell nah, you got hero points. That doesn't count. That's just weak. The two of them go back and forth, The rest of the class walking alongside them as they fight, continuing the conversation into the changing room while they were changing, along with while they were walking back outside, finishing with a whatever nerd as they walk outside and see Aizawa's gaze. Alright class, as you can probably tell, we're doing a class test. He does the whole speech about how people's quirks haven't been tested their entire life, telling everyone to go all out before throwing Deku the ball. Bakugo from the back is pissed. What the hell? Why are they giving that nerd the ball? Watching as Deku catches it, walking forward. So, what am I supposed to do with this? Aizawa smiles. I just want you to throw it, just normally. It's fine. Deku shrugging before cocking his fist back, throwing the ball and getting a solid 90 meters. He's buff, but he's not too strong. Bakugo from the back starts laughing. Lame! Some of the class giggling too until Aizawa throws him a second ball. Okay, now use your quirk. Deku hearing Bakugo's trash talk from the back decides to lock in. telling the class to back up a little bit. Everyone watching as Deku would throw the ball up into the air. Aizawa and Bakugo both intrigued as the ball would begin to fall back down. Everyone watching as Deku would begin to cock his fist back. Bakugo getting flashbacks to the entrance exam. No, there's no. Being silenced by Deku cracking the air in front of him, but this time a huge crack would appear. Deku pushing his quirk to the max, slamming it with all of his might. Everyone hearing as it goes silent, the ball stuck stagnant in the air before, like in the entrance exam, it begins to crackle, making a huge cracking sound before a sonic boom goes off, air pressure rushing past the forest in front of him and slamming up into the air above him. The ball going flying and not stopping, traveling 100 meters, 200, 1,000, only stopping after 1.8 kilometers. Everyone seeing this is astounded. Even Aizawa staring at him shocked. Everyone staring up into the sky, seeing the clouds above him begin to part, the air pressure pushing him backwards. Bakugo and the class can't even talk. They knew Deku was powerful, but this was crazy. No one can speak as Deku begins to walk backwards, turning and joining the rest of the class like nothing even happened. From there, the rest of the exams would go on, going something like this. For the grip strength, Deku can't really do anything, so he just uses it like a normal grip strength test, getting pretty decent score, he's not weak. For the 100-meter dash, Deku would just fly, getting probably first score on that too. For the long jump, he does the same thing, same with the side-to-side steps, and from there, Deku would be placed at number 1. His best scores evening out over Momo's. From there, the class is shocked, staring at Deku, Kirishima speaking up. Dude, what is your quirk? You cracked the air. Deku starts laughing, staring around him, staring at even Aizawa, who was shocked. I can manipulate the sky, like the sky around us. If I'm being honest, I'm just glad we're outside. Bakugo from the back notes this down. Oh, so he's weak inside buildings, huh? Good to know. Everyone chatting a little bit until Aizawa sends them off to orientation. All of them going off as the rest of that day they would just sit and chat, getting to know each other as a class, forming their normal dynamic, with Deku in this time being a lot more confident. From there, about a week or so would go by, Deku dropping hints of his quirk, never going into too much detail, sitting and forming a good friendship with a couple of people until All Might would come through the door like a normal person. Of course, people are shocked by this. Oh, All Might! Deku extra shocked. He knew All Might was going to be a teacher, but his teacher is crazy. He stares All Might down, all giddy in his seat, listening and watching as All Might explains the situation today, how they're doing heroes vs villains training, glossing over everything before pressing a button in his hand. Booyah! All their costumes coming out the wall next to him. Now get these on and meet me at Ground Gamma for your first ever heroes vs villains training. All of them right away don't even need to hear him. They rush and grab their costumes, running out to the changing rooms, going and getting changed. Now if I'm being completely honest, I don't know what Deku's costume would look like. The costume for the person who has this technique is legitimately nothing. She's just butt-ass naked, and Deku can't do that because that's some Diddy timing. If you made it this far, by the way, drop Diddy in the comments. So instead, I'm just gonna give Deku a regular ass fit. It's still gonna be clean, but I just haven't decided what it looks like, And he has absolutely zero hero support items. Due to this, he is at a disadvantage for this training today. As he walks to the side, he stares at the building, knowing this wasn't gonna be fun. Damn it. Listening as All Might would tell him about the lots system, getting him to pick out the lots, and eventually getting paired up like in canon. Like you would think, it would be Bakugo and Ida versus Deku and Uraraka. Bakugo hearing this, getting a demonic grin on his face. Finally! They're called in first and Bakugo and Ida will go into the building. Bakugo, like you would think, running off by himself, as Uraraka and Deku would strategize. Deku turned to Uraraka and beginning to talk. As you probably know, my quirk is named Sky Manipulation. I can manipulate the sky, making it like cloth or making it hard. It's pretty versatile, don't get me wrong, but I think we might have to rely on your quirk today. Because we're inside, I can't see the sky. All of it clicking in Uraraka's head. Oh, so because we're inside, you can't see the sky, right? So it's not spatial manipulation. Good to know. I think we could do that. Okay then, let's talk strategy. The two of them sitting and talking about strategy until All Might would come over the intercom, telling them that they're finally allowed to move. Hearing this, Deku and Uraraka rush into the building, both of them splitting off right away and rushing through the lower section, scanning the entire building as quick as they can before meeting at the staircase again, both of them nodding and continuing onto the second floor. As they walk through the hallway of the second floor, they hear something from above. Deku hearing the ceiling vibrate, the small sound of explosions going off until someone would appear from in front of them. Bakugo, dropping from the third floor from the staircase, staring at Deku with a huge smile on his face. Now you got nowhere to run. And I know your quirk doesn't work inside. You're finished! As he says this, he rushes into Deku, exploding in and about to send his huge right hook like usual. Deku seeing this would parry, dodging underneath it and grabbing onto Bakugo's stomach, running him full force into the wall and slamming him onto it. Bakugo does like the ugh, staring at Deku as he tries to hold Bakugo back, watching as Uraraka comes in from the left. Hell nah, no way I'm getting beaten by a sidekick! He stares Uraraka down with a demonic look. twisting his wrist that was on the wall to stare at Uraraka, finally getting it to point at her as eventually he lets off a huge explosion, using the wall and his leg as bracing, about to slam Uraraka with a punch until Deku jumps in the way, tanking the explosion head on and grabbing onto Uraraka's wrist. As he feels the explosion, he twists Uraraka around himself, sending her flying towards Bakugo, who was still distracted. Not seeing this coming, Bakugo was completely open, Uraraka's hand heading right for Bakugo's chest. Before he can react, he's touched, at first not feeling it until Deku falls onto the floor in front of him with a huge smile on his face. "Got you." Bakugo looks around. What are you talking? Feeling himself slowly lift off the floor, Uraraka jumping out of the way as Bakugo would send another explosion, which to his surprise sends him flying backwards, slamming him into a wall again. Deku from the floor pointing at him and laughing. "What? First time flying?" Bakugo getting more and more pissed. "You were supposed to fight me one-on-one, Deku!" Slowly getting used to the zero gravity and about to fly towards Deku again until Deku would get up, like usual, facing the other direction and waving Bakugo down. "Sorry, Bakugo. I'll fight you again another time. Toodles." As he says this, he runs off, him and Uraraka running up the stairs, leaving Bakugo pissed, screaming to the heavens below him. Deku and Uraraka getting up to the staircase. Sitting next to the door as Ida would begin his little villain speech. Like usual, they sit and stare, watching as he does it and beginning to burst out laughing, not being able to hold that shit back anymore. Ida hears this from the room, staring him down. "Well, it seems you two heroes have gotten past my partner in crime. I can't allow you to come any closer. I will defend this bomb with my life." He stares the two of them down. As you can see, the room is completely clear, which means your zero gravity quirk will be useless, which just leaves you. He stares Deku down, readying his engines before flying towards Deku. Deku, seeing this, barely reacts in time, dodging as he slams a kick right at his head. "Whoa, Jesus, are you going for the kill?" Uraraka from the side freezes up, watching as Ida slams his other leg backwards, about to kick Deku in the stomach until he jumps, jumping right over Ida as his kick whooshes past him. He stares at Ida from below as he's over him, planning his next move until Uraraka would begin to move, making herself weightless and jumping off the wall next to her, flying top speed towards the bomb. Ida seeing this smiles, putting his legs into gear and rushing as quick as he could towards the bomb, beating out Uraraka who was flying next to him until he sees Deku at the corner of his eye. What the hell's he? His thoughts cut off by Deku slamming his foot into the window behind him, completely smashing it open and letting the sunlight in. Seeing this, Ida freezes up, bomb still in hand. Wait, no! He's about to start running away again until Deku would grab onto the sky outside, grabbing it with both hands and beginning to tilt it. Ida feels his perspective changing, seeing himself tilt backwards before he starts falling, the entire area tilting on its axis. Doing this, Ida falls down, Deku using this time to desperately jump off the wall, soaring towards the bomb and eventually getting a touch on it. Doing this would end the match, All Might coming over the intercom saying, "Hero team wins!" completely pissing Bakugo off downstairs. From upstairs you can hear him screaming, "Damn it, Deku! I'm gonna kill you for this!" Deku, Uraraka and Ida all laughing upstairs as Bakugo begins storming off, all of the class watching intently at the match. From there the rest of the matches go on like you would think. Todoroki freezes the entire building, the tail guy gets bitched, Bakugo's still pissed because he didn't get to run his ones, and that's about it. Nothing really changing in this time, which would lead us to class the next day, where Aizawa would start to warm up to the students, starting to treat them like an actual class. This would go on for like a week or so until eventually Aizawa would hand out the sheets for the USJ, telling the class to get them signed by their parents before coming back the next day. Everyone would do so like you would think, Aoyama in the background snitching to All For One, who eventually sets up the whole USJ incident. From there they would get onto the bus, sitting and scrolling for a little bit until eventually Froppy would pop the question, who did Class 1A think was the strongest? Now, in this timeline, it would be a lot more of a mixed bag. Everyone liked Deku's quirk and they could see he was powerful, but the whole drawback of not being able to use it inside was kind of throwing them off. Plus, after they saw Todoroki freeze the entire building, they were kind of mixed bag. And due to this, I'm going to say that there was kind of a three-way tie, Bakugo being on the lower end as Todoroki and Deku would be on the higher end. People would debate this out for a little bit, weighing up the pros and cons of each quirk, asking Deku for more information which Deku would spill. The entire time Bakugo would sit back and listen, jotting everything down until eventually they would reach the USJ. Like you would think, they would walk inside, being met by Pro Hero 13 who would start her lame speech. The entire time Deku would just be staring around, Bakugo glaring at him until Deku would clock something, Korigiri appearing down the bottom. Right away Deku would lock in, staring at Aizawa. "Aizawa, those your friends down there?" Aizawa right away looks around, staring at all the villains appearing down below. "No, not at all. In fact, they're quite the opposite. 13, you take care of the students. I got the villains." Right away he jumps down, using his little scarf thing to start boxing up all the fodder. Deku staring from above as Aizawa went to work. As this happens, Pro Hero 13 would begin huddling everyone together, trying to strategize until Korigiri would appear out of nowhere, teleporting up to the top and starting to talk. "Sorry to intrude, but We weren't invited. He's cut off by Deku rushing towards him, grabbing onto the open sky around him and freezing it in place. Korigiri snaps in place for a second. Deku rushing closer and closer as he cocks his fist back. The entire class watching as Deku would shatter Korigiri, hitting him square on his metal piece. Korigiri, feeling this, doesn't even have any words for it, getting knocked clean out by this, being sent flying towards the outside of the USJ, slamming into the glass and completely shattering everything around it. The clap of Deku's punch shattering every single glass pane in the USJ, opening up more sky for his quirk to use. Bakuro from the back of the class stares him down. "Stop showing me up, Deku. You know what? Screw it. You don't get any stronger standing still, right?" 13 screaming from the front. "No!" Watching as Bakuro would explode off, Deku following shortly behind. The two of them rushing off full speed towards Aizawa, Shigaraki staring him down as they do this. Well, it seems two of them broke through, huh? Korigiri, you really need to toughen up more. Though, I am a little bit worried about what that sound was before. Who cares? I still got you, right? Nomu. The Nomu sitting completely still, staring Aizawa down. Well, may as well get the fun started, right? Nomu, why don't you get rid of Aizawa first? I think it'd be funny if those kids over there watched him die. Shigaraki from the back would start laughing like a maniac, watching as Nomu lunged towards Aizawa. Deku, who was flying up from above, would see this, eyes going wide as he jumps off the sky. Aizawa, damn it, look it! Before he can finish, he sees Nomu's arm already cocked back. Completely desperate, he grabs onto the sky around him, grabbing it and throwing it over his shoulder. Doing this sends a tear throughout the USJ, the metal roof creaking and caving in. Aizawa barely saved as the sky around the Nomu's arm would begin to fold, turning almost liquid as Nomu's arm would plummet into the floor, looking all weird and contorted. Aizawa staring from right ahead. What the hell was that? He sees the sky around him curving, kind of looking like a fisheye lens, you know, if you've seen one of them, knowing it could only be one person. Right away, Deku would fall to the floor, grabbing onto Aizawa and flying up into the air again. As he does this, the sky from before would begin to form back again, going back to normal as the Nomu's arm would go back to normal too. Shigaraki at first scared until he sees the Nomu's arm completely fine. What the hell was that quirk? Nomu! Kill him first. Screw Aizawa. The gnome would start screeching and stuff, you know, locking in on Deku this time and jumping towards him at top speed. Deku, while holding Aizawa, feels the hairs on the back of his neck standing up, feeling the area around him and feeling the Nomu coming from behind. Right away, he throws Aizawa up into the air, turning 180 degrees and staring the Nomu down, watching as his fist flailed backwards. Right away, he holds his hand up, hardening the sky in front of the Nomu and cocking his fist back as well. A huge smile grows on his face as both of them would collide fists in the middle. The Nomu's arm right away shattering him to pieces. Deku's punch setting his arm flailing backwards, thinking he won until the Nomu's arm regenerates, slamming forward again and clipping Deku in the stomach, folding him in half and sending him flying towards the exit of the USJ. He's knocked back into his childhood, seeing all his memories and shit until he locks back in again, coughing a little bit of blood before manipulating the sky beneath him to send him flying up into the air again. Doing this gives him a little bit of time to recover, staring at his stomach knowing something was wrong. He looks at the Nomu again, knowing it was coming back, watching as he crouched down before jumping towards Deku again. Bakuro from below seeing this is shocked. Wait, Deku, look out! Watching as Deku's once again slammed, but this time not as hard. Deku in a state of desperation mid-air would have unlocked something. Needing more defense, he instinctively made more than one sky sheet harden thing. So you know how he can harden the sky? He makes that, but kind of stacked, you know, stacking about 3 of them together as the gnome would collide into it. The first and second one cracking, but the third one staying pretty well alright. Knowing he was in a bad spot, he decides to get out of there, jumping up into the air and coating himself like he did with Bakugo, making himself pretty well invisible to the Nomu. Though this actually works against him, because the Nomu's not able to pursue Deku anymore, he goes for Aizawa instead, turning backwards mid-air, landing before jumping towards Aizawa. Aizawa, who was once again distracted, gets clocked by this, getting slammed in the skull by the Nomu and sent flying backwards. Deku, who is hidden, stares at this. No, there's no way. Unhiding himself as Shigaraki starts to laugh again. What a punch, Nomu. You had me worried there for a second. I thought that Sky Freak would actually beat you. Guess I was worried over nothing. Now, finish the job. The Nomu locks back in once more, about to slam Aizawa with a punch until Deku comes in clutch, flying over the Nomu and hitting the sky just in time before the impact, grabbing the sky and yanking it upwards, before flinging it over his shoulder again and slamming it back towards the Nomu. This time the Nomu's fist bends, entire arm contorted and twisting back towards himself. The fist that was once directed at Aizawa would be going straight towards the Nomu this time, slamming himself in the face with his own punch. Once again, Deku picks up Aizawa, this time an injured and bloody one. He stares down into his shell-shock eyes, running away as quick as possible until someone would come through the door. All Might, standing up the top. He stares from the top, staring downwards, seeing the Nomu getting up, along with Shigaraki Shigaraki celebrating in the background. Well, the main attraction finally decided to show up. All Might hearing this has none of it, staring down at Shigaraki with angry eyes. So you're the one who raided the USJ, huh? He looks at Deku, who was holding Aizawa, seeing the state Aizawa was in, and the shock that Deku was in. Seeing this just makes him more pissed, rushing down and this time directing all of his anger towards Shigaraki, running completely past Sonomu and slamming Shigaraki in the stomach, which to his surprise would injure him badly, sending him flying backwards as Sonomu would jump in to help him, clocking All Might in the back of the head with a sneak attack, but not in time for Shigaraki to get completely slammed. It was bad. All Might didn't know who injured Aizawa, so he went full power off the bat, completely rupturing all of his organs. From there, All Might and the Nomu would fight, the fight going like you would think, until from the corner of his eye, he sees something, a black goo taking over Shigaraki's body, spitting from his mouth before covering his entire body. All Might too late as Shigaraki was teleported away. Now, this means that the Nomu and Korogiri were sacrificed in this what if, which probably won't do too much. I mean, they've got a copy of Korogiri's quirk anyway, so... And like my other what ifs, Shigaraki is put into the surgery early, this time because of his injury, or for one deciding that his anger when he wakes up will be at a new level, and if he gets more power right now, him and his new body will be unstoppable. While that happens, Deku would go to the hospital. Him and Aizawa both recovering after getting slammed by the Nomu. Deku wasn't too badly injured, but he was still drained. That new move that he did completely took it out of him. Him and Aizawa eventually waking up about 1 or 2 days later, sitting next to each other and just sitting and chatting, with one thought always in Deku's mind: he needed to get stronger. From there they would get released, and like you would think, they would get a week off before the UA Sports Festival. Deku in this time remembering back to the USJ, remembering back to the triple layer that he did, that one defense. He needed to get to a point where he could do that on command, and to a point where it didn't drain him. This is a lot easier said than done, but Deku would still train it nonetheless. In this week, eventually finding out how to do 2 layers, but nothing more than that, which is still pretty OP. Come on, let's be real. This also means that his thin icebreaker is twice as powerful, which might actually be too strong. I've got one more move saved up for him though. Anyway, from there he would eventually finish up the 1 week, going back to school with a different aura about him, waiting in the waiting room as the rest of the class would pile in, all ready for the UA Sports Festival. Deku sits down and just kind of scrolls, sitting on his phone the entire time as Bakugo would stare at him from the corner of the room, in his head constantly replaying the USJ, getting madder and madder by the second. If I was there, none of this shit would have happened. All the feelings going around his head, he starts walking towards Deku, staring him down as he does so. Deku from his peripherals sees him coming towards him, putting his phone down and staring at Bakugo, who stares back before opening his mouth. This is war, Deku. You and me have to fight one-on-one. Today will decide everything. You have no chance to hide this time. Deku hearing this smiles, getting into the competitive spirit. He stares Bakugo down along with an approaching Todoroki. Fine then, be my guest, but I'm not going to go easy on you. I've got a new move I want to try out. As he says this, he stands up, Midnight finally telling them to all come out. Deku walking away before Todoroki could even declare war on him. Like from there, they would start to do the presentations and stuff. Deku in this timeline not being given the mic for the speech because I am slack. Let's just say he does a good speech. And from there, the first event would be chosen, the obstacle course. Like you would think, Deku hearing this smiles a huge smile. Bakugo and Todoroki staring at him. They knew this was bad. As they all line up, Deku would begin to grab the sky. Not doing anything with it yet, just kind of getting ready. Staring around the competition. He sees Bakugo with explosions going off in his hands already, along with Todoroki whose ice was about to coat the floor. Seeing this, he smiles. Well, aren't they revved up? Waiting until Midnight puts her hand up, Deku getting ready as the gun would go off. As soon as the gun goes off, he jumps up into the air, using the sky underneath himself to catapult himself into the air. All the people in the crowd are shocked, seeing the space around the tunnel distort. What the hell was that? Watching as Deku would fly up into the air. The rest of the students down below caught, some of them with distorted faces, some being forced to the floor, and the rest of them getting blocked by a huge hardened wall of sky that Deku left. He stares at him from above, sitting and waving at him before jumping off the sky, using his quirk to just fly to the end. And that is it. He would dodge all the 0-pointers, he dodges that big ass hole in the floor, and he dodges every single one of the mine, getting the 100 points easily, which I'm pretty sure Bakugo and Todoroki kinda would have expected. Knowing this, the two of them instead would go ham, fighting between each other the entire time until eventually Bakugo would get second and Todoroki would get third. From there, the cavalry battle would happen, which I'm not going to cover because that shit's boring, which would lead to the 1v1 fights. Now, I'm going to say because Deku's more cracked in this timeline, his team for the cavalry battle would have got more points, which means the entirety of the 1v1 section would be in a completely different order. Deku not versing Shinso and instead versing Aoyama, the rat, which would go a little something like this. Right away, the match would start and Deku would rush in, not even using using his quirk, just running in. Because Deku's ignorant, he has not noticed Aoyama at all. He doesn't know his quirk at all, and thus he's going into this completely blind. As he runs in, he sees Aoyama's belly button starting to like light up a little bit, watching as he like bent down a little bit. Seeing this, he remembers back to the quirk apprehension test. Damn it, what was it? What was it? Oh, he finally clocks it in his head. Shit! He's got lasers! He watches as Aoyama shoots a huge laser towards Deku, barely reacting in time as he slips it. Wait, what am I doing? Sliding on the floor before hopping up and sitting completely still, watching as Aoyama would shoot another one right at him. Instead of dodging, Deku grabs the sky below him, flinging it upwards and throwing it over his shoulder like he did with the Nomu. The ring around him and the laser twisting upwards before shooting back towards Aoyama. Aoyama's face going from happy to shocked in a second, getting KO'd by his own quirk. If you wanna know why he's versing Aoyama, by the way, it's because he would've lost to Shinso. Like, let's be real. From there, he goes to the second round, versing Todoroki like you would think. He was gonna be versing Tokiyami, but that's kind of boring, let's be real. So instead, Deku and Todoroki would stare each other down, Todoroki finally getting to declare war on him. Hearing this, Deku would smile. You know what my main move's called? Thin Ice Breaker. I mean, seeing as you have an ice quirk, I thought you would be more scared. Todoroki stares at him from the other side of the ring. Shut up, quit talking. You just love the sound of your own voice. Deku smiles as Midnight would raise her hand up, both of them getting ready as she would shoot the gun. Right away, Todoroki sends out a huge glacier of ice towards Deku, Deku staring it down. Well, who would have thought? The entire stadium watching as Deku would cock his fist back, Sky freezing up in front of him as he would slam a punch in front of him. The ice not even halfway towards Deku would get crushed, being sent flying backwards like a Deku in normal cannon. Todoroki getting flung back too, keeping himself in with some ice as he stares Deku down. Deku doesn't waste a single second though, waving at Todoroki before completely vanishing in front of his eyes. Todoroki's confused. Wait, what? Staring around him, seeing the sky weirdly contorted. So that's it. He's hiding in the sky, huh? He tries to sense him out, staring around him and sending out ice in just random directions. Deku up directly above him, staring down on him. He knew he couldn't do anything crazy because of the crowd around him, and thus he had to finish this quick. Knowing this, he decides to go for the kill, staring Todoroki down before jumping off the sky, flying down top speed towards him. He knew he couldn't land a thin icebreaker on him, otherwise he might kill him, so instead he decides to do something else, running down and stopping right in front of him, making himself visible again before grabbing the sky around Todoroki's face. Todoroki's vision begins to get blurry, seeing the sky around him distort like a lens. Barely able to react as Deku would slam his face and the sky around it into the floor. Todoroki, unable to control himself, would get slammed on the face, bouncing off the floor before freezing up in place. Feeling this, he instinctively uses his quirk, flaring off fire in the direction of Deku, which Deku would have to jump out of the way to dodge. He stares Todoroki down with a huge smile on his face. So it finally comes out, huh? Smiling as Todoroki would immediately turn it off, getting a little bit dark and gloomy as Deku would run in, freezing a tiny section of air in front of Todoroki and slamming him with a thin icebreaker right into the gut. Only a small one though. This would completely rock him, and because he's up in his own head and stuff, he would get sent out. Sorry if this is kind of lame, by the way. His power is like kind of OP, but it's got so many moves that you can't use, otherwise you're just gonna kill people. Trust me, if you want like OP stuff, give me like 10 minutes. When he's gonna be versing Shigaraki, it's gonna go crazy, trust me. From there, he would finally go on to his last match. Him versus Bakugo. A match that Bakugo has been waiting for and wishing for the last like 11 months or something. In the locker room, Bakugo would sit with his hands in his pockets, sitting with his eyes closed, listening to some music, more locked in than he's ever been in his entire life. Deku sitting in a locker room that's far away from him, sitting and listening to music too, trying to think of a strategy on how to beat Bakugo, eventually coming up with a couple of good ideas. As they would get called out, Deku would walk up, smile on his face, walking out to the stage. He stares Bakugo down, who also had a smile. He's more demonic and angry looking. Before the round even starts, Bakugo starts talking. Well, you don't know how long I've been waiting for this, Deku. No running away this time. Let's get busy. Deku hearing this smiles. Yeah, Bakugo, you better be up for it. I've got a couple of new moves I want to try out. Don't die on me. Hearing this, Bakugo gets ready, staring Deku down as Midnight would raise her hand up. The crowd going crazy until Midnight would shoot. Everyone going dead silent as the two of them would rush in. Bakugo's explosions shaking the entire arena, already being huge because Bakugo warmed up pre-match. He shoots towards Deku, who rushes in towards him, about to send a huge explosion off until Deku would put his hands up, grabbing onto the sky in front of him and yanking it left. Bakugo sees this, explodes right, trying to counterbalance, but he can't. He feels his vision going left, watching as the entire world almost tilts to his will. Deku staring as Bakugo starts falling left, about to send off a thin icebreaker until Bakugo would explode upwards. Not yet, bastard! He cups his two hands together, staring Deku down. What about this one? His hands glow bright before a huge explosion would come off of him, hunting Deku down in a straight beam. AP shot! Deku seeing this coming smiles. Didn't you learn from my first match, Bakugo? He grabs onto the sky where the explosion was, flinging it over his head and slamming it onto the floor in front of him. Bakugo seeing this is confused. Huh? Why did he throw it downwards? What's that little shit cooking up? He hovers midair, watching as the explosion blocks his vision. Deku in the smoke trying out one of his new tricks. He starts bending the light around him, doing kind of like a wave and making a mirage of himself. You know how Nami can like make like different clones of herself, you know? But they're not really there, they're just like mirages. Yeah, they're mirages. Deku would do that, making a second version of himself. Before hiding himself in the sky, he jumps upwards, the mirage rushing towards Bakugo head on. Well, trying to fight me one-on-one, huh? Come at me then. Bakugo explodes back up again before sending a huge explosion towards the mirage, dodging to the right as Deku would uncloak himself, standing behind him with a thin icebreaker already charged up. Bakugo starts laughing. Huh, you really think you could beat me up in the air, Deku? Damn straight I did. Bakugo hears this from behind him, barely able to turn in time as Deku would slam him with the attack, breaking his back paws and completely flogging him right into the middle of the arena. The cement he lands on cracks, huge gust of air hitting the spectators. He stays up in the air watching from above, staring down on Bakugo, who begins getting up again. Damn, Deku, so that's what you meant, huh? Well, I'm telling you right now, it's not gonna work still. He begins blasting up into the air again, getting higher and higher, soaring past Deku who floated midair. Deku floating there watches, staring at Bakugo as he begins to spin uncontrollably, falling and going absolutely nuts, charging up a huge howitzer impact. Deku staring at this begins to laugh. What a dumbass. He sits still and watches as Bakugo plummets towards him. Deku falling back to the ground as Bakugo would start screaming his attack name. He stares at him, grabbing onto the sky in front of him, watching and trying to time it perfectly. He sees him coming quicker and quicker, waiting and waiting before hardening the sky above him. I was gonna make him like redirect him out of the stadium, but if I'm gonna be honest, I think Bakugo would have thought of that too, so he would have countered. So instead, Deku would just harden the sky above him and Bakugo would just plummet into it and knock himself out. Kind of cliche and kind of anticlimactic if I'm being honest, but From there, Deku would win first place, Bakugo would get second, and Todoroki or Tokiyami would get third. I don't care, you choose. Bakugo in this time, not really being that angry. He ran his ones, he got beat, and although he thought it was kind of cheap, he didn't really care. Finding a new respect for Deku until eventually they would be let go. Getting the rest of the afternoon off as the teachers would compile all of their offers into one little spreadsheet, putting it onto everyone's desks as they would return the next day. As they walked through the building, they would see their huge folders sitting on front of their desks. Everyone's sighing and beginning to flip through. Deku's this time isn't that big. His quirk is cracked and he did get number 1, but his quirk is very hard to understand. I don't think a lot of heroes would really know how to train Deku, and if I'm going to be honest, I haven't thought about who he's going to go with. Let me think about that real quick. Deku would sit there and flip through his folder, sitting and scanning every single name in the book, weighing up his options before one name sticks out to him, which I'm going to say is Edshot. Right away he would write his name down, submitting it to Aizawa and getting it approved before getting on a bus and rushing over to Edshot's agency. Once again, I'm not going to go into too much detail because that would spoil one of the moves that I want to hide for the end. But just know he gets a hell of a lot more proficient with his quirk, and along with that he learns how to fold the sky. Hint hint. Over this work he would also go on patrols and stuff, going into another city, not in Hosu or anything like that, which would also mean that Ida dies. Rest in peace. I'm sure his 4 fans will be very sad about that in the comments. They would do a whole funeral thing until they would finally get back to class. Everyone talking about what they learned over the internships before Aizawa would walk in, the entire class going silent as he begins talking. As you probably know, this week marks the 7th week of our 10-week term, which means that next week you have final exams coming up. The entire class groans, complaining a little bit until Aizawa would shut them up again. As I was saying before, we will be giving you the next week off to train and to study for this exam. It will be split up into 2 parts, the theory and the practical, much like the entrance exam. I suggest you study for both. The class from there is then led off, everyone going their separate ways, everyone going to like Momos and stuff, doing the whole study thing, while Deku would be training. The entire time trying to train what Edshot and him were thinking up while they were in their internship. Getting it to work a couple of times, but never getting it to work more than twice in a row. Deciding to train another move for the last like 3 days until finally the final exams would roll around. As the day rolls around, Deku would sit the theory exam, scoring like a solid 85% or something like that. He's a smart kid, before walking out to the practical site. Like you would think, he hears everyone talking about robots and stuff, getting hell of a lot more confident until he sees all the teachers walking towards him. Right away he puts 2 and 2 together. Oh, so that's how it's gonna go, huh? Watching as Aizawa and the rest of them would come closer, beginning to talk and explaining how the practical exam would work this year. Everyone getting paired up into their usual groups except for Bakugo and Deku. They are beefing beefing in this time, but they're not beefing near as much as they were in canon. Like, if anything, they're kind of rivals in this, and in canon they were just like straight up hating. Deku in this time being paired up with Momo, and being paired up against Aizawa. I would have made him verse All Might with Bakugo, but once again, his moves from here on are like kill moves. Like, again, you'll see it eventually. And I don't want to spoil anything. Anyways, like you would think, him and Momo would sit and chat for a little bit, getting a couple of plans in, and planning together, unlike her and Todoroki. Sitting and planning until eventually they would get called out. The two of them sit at the entrance as Aizawa would get ready, stretching and stuff until they're told they could move. Right away, Deku would code himself, going completely invisible and jumping up onto a nearby roof. Only after getting given something by Momo though. As he swings off, Momo runs in, trying to find Aizawa until she's found herself. Right away he goes to cancel Momo's quirk, eyes opening wide as Deku would throw something in front of him. A small, spherical bomb looking device. Momo turns away as the device begins to flash. Aizawa turning away as well until the light would follow him, turning with him and blinding him directly in the eyes. Right after this, Deku uncovers himself, freezing this guy around Aizawa and jumping him, fighting him in a weakened state and eventually getting the win. Kinda lame, I know. Give me time, trust me. Anyways, from there they're all told that they can go to the forest training camp. Kinda saying the exam didn't really matter. They're once again given time off to go like shopping and stuff, which would go down like canon. Except that creepy Donnie, Shigaraki, doesn't come in and start touching people's necks. So this timeline they're safe and they just go shopping. Getting on the bus the next day and going straight to the training camp. As they're sitting on the bus, Deku sits and like doom scrolls, sitting like a complete zombie until they would stop randomly on the top of the mountain. Deku looking outside as the rest of the class would get out. Deku coming out last as the rest of them would get flung off the mountain. The teacher's leaving Deku out of it since, you know, he can fly. With Deku instead being told to run alongside the bus and that training starts right now. So while the rest of the class run through the forest, Deku runs next to the bus, running all the way to the training camp and meeting the rest of the class there. Like you would think, from there they would have dinner and sleep the rest of that night off, getting ready for the training tomorrow. Tomorrow would roll around and right away their training would begin. Deku at first given some physical activities like he was in canon, until he would go up to Aizawa and suggest himself training a new move that he's wanted to try out. Aizawa's at first hesitant, not really wanting Deku to do his own thing until he hears what Deku was thinking, finding a random spot for him out in the forest and telling him to go nuts. Over the next 2 days, Deku would sit and do nothing but this, sitting and training every single second, contorting the sky around himself constantly, getting more and more mastery over his quirk until eventually he would figure it out. His perfect defense. In his mind he was set now. Because of his training with Edgeshot, he already had his perfect offense, but now because of this training he had his perfect defense too. Deku low-key hype, just sitting and training the entire thing until the next day would roll around. The third and final day of the training camp. The day that Shigaraki and All For One decided to raid. I don't know if I mentioned this already, but because Shigaraki got so injured at the USJ, he got the surgery already. So this isn't a normal Shigaraki. And this is also a pre-Kamino All For One, so they ain't messing around. As the night would fall, the two of them would start their invasion. Having gotten all the info from that rat Aoyama, they decided to attack when that forest walk was going on. Everyone none the wiser as villains would begin flooding the forest. Like you would think, the rest of the class does their regular stuff, walking through, getting scared, scaring people, until eventually people would notice something was wrong, smelling smoke in the air. Deku, having gone in last, smells this last. But immediately as he smells it, he jumps above the tree line, looking around him and seeing smoke in every single direction, noticing light off where Todoroki was, feeling a couple of vibrations up in the air. This was no good. Right away he rushes off, searching around the place, going back to the teachers and warning them before flying off again, going towards any single sign of distress, about to go help Todoroki until that telepath chick starts talking to him, using her quirk to tell Deku to go save Koda. After hearing this, he flies upwards, looking around the place and eventually finding him sitting on the mountainside. He would fly over to him, falling down and sitting right next to him, telling him about the predicament they're in and telling him to get on. He's about to like piggyback him and start flying off until he hears something, hearing a stick cracking from behind him, turning to see someone's fist already about 30 centimeters away from his face. Thinking quick, he grabs onto the sky where his fist already was, pulling up as hard as he could, which would barely make Muscular's fist whiz past his face. Right away he jumps off, flying off the side of the mountain and staring Muscular down. Koda's still on his back as Deku would begin talking. "You just went for the kid, didn't you? You weren't even aiming for me, you sick freak." Muscular smiles, staring back at him. "Damn straight, kid. Why else do you think I'm up here? The master said I could kill whoever I wanted, so I thought I'd start off with the youngest first. But looking at you, I think you'll put up more of a fight." Right away he rushes towards Deku, jumping up and slamming a fist indiscriminately, muscles coating the entire fist as Deku would harden the sky in front of him. To Deku's surprise, he would get rocked still, the fist going completely through the hardened sky, slamming him right on the chin and sending him flying backwards with Koda still on his back. He feels this impact, seeing stars and stuff before locking back in, using the sky under him to catapult himself up, staring Muscular down who was now falling midair. You know, jumping up into the sky like that against someone like me was a stupid idea. He jumps off the sky, rushing towards Muscular who was staring still at him. Oh, you coming back for more, kid, huh? Well, come on. He's cut off, seeing Deku going completely invisible, watching as him and the kid disappear in front of his eyes. Wait, what? Looking around himself until he hears something to his left, hearing the wind stop completely. As he looks over, he sees the sky stretched weirdly, looking like a bad Photoshop, drawn to it like a moth to the flame as Deku's hand would come out of nowhere. Sky hardened in front of him as he would slam a punch right into Muscular's stomach, the force clapping at the wind in front of him, doing internal damage, cracking some of Muscular's bones and sending him flying backwards. Muscular spits blood, staring at Deku who rushes towards him again, jumping off the sky and beating him to the floor, waiting until Muscular falls in front of him, before manipulating the sky and flinging him back upwards again. Muscular, about to pass out, sees the clouds coming closer to him, feeling the wind rushing past his face until it completely stops, slamming himself into a hardened sky which Deku stood above, fist already cocked back. Like in the USJ, he hardens more than one, creating about 3 sheets in front of Muscular before slamming his fist forward, putting all of his might into it, breaking the sound barrier and completely clapping Muscular to the floor. Before Muscular can even process the pain, he ricochets off the floor, bouncing and borderline dying there and then. Deku stares from above, slowly floating down like Homelander, staring Muscular down the entire time until he sees someone walking out from the forest, all of his instincts telling him to go nowhere near him. Koda on his back starting to cry, just feeling the vibe that guy gave off. He walks slowly towards Muscular, staring at him. Well, I'll be damned. This guy freaks a lot stronger than I thought. Deku from above finally clocks who it is, seeing the blue hair and the cracked skin. Wait, you're that hand guy from the USJ. He's about to fly off until Shigaraki stares directly at him, using his freshly stolen search quirk to look right at him. So it's sky manipulation. That makes sense. I wonder how that'll pair with weather control. The possibilities are endless. Deku stares as Shigaraki crouches down, putting his hand onto Muscular's face and stealing his quirk in front of his eyes, not breaking eye contact with Deku for even a second. Yellow circle appearing below Shigaraki before he jumps right at Deku. Deku, barely reacting time, jumps off the sky, flinging himself backwards and getting away from Shigaraki's hand. Shit, I can't fight with Koda on my back. He looks around himself, seeing Shigaraki starting to charge up something in his hand. Knowing he had to do something, he activates his perfect defense, which works kind of like Infinity, or at least that's what I'm basing it off. Him constantly manipulating the sky around himself and curving any attack away from himself. You know those animations that show air resistance? I want it to kind of work like that. Shigaraki finishes his mumbling, his hand lighting up before a huge mountain of attacks would shoot towards Deku. Deku standing completely still as they start to stretch around him, contorting and bending around him to completely miss him. Shigaraki starts laughing like a maniac. Oh wow, look at that! He didn't even dodge! His life force seems to still be there. I wonder what's happening. His attack finally finishing as Deku would stand completely still, looking untouched and staring at Shigaraki, feeling his head throbbing after using his quirk that much. Koda on his back grabs on tight, scared for his life. Watching as Deku coats himself in the sky again, flying straight towards the floor and dropping Koda off right away. To his surprise though, Shigaraki follows him. You know I've got a search quirk, right? You really think hiding in the sky is gonna save you? Once again he reaches his arm out, this time with Decay and All for One active, about to steal Deku's quirk and kill him until he sees his hand twist away last second. You and that damn quirk! Deku now seeing an opening, and with Koda not on his back anymore, decides to go all out. Like Muscular, he stacks on 3 sheets in front of him, a couple of Shigaraki's danger sense quirks going off, watching as Deku would cock his fist back. Having a bunch of sensory quirks, he sees the sky in front of him freeze, watching it stop in place, seeing every single one of the panels in front of him. So that's how it works, huh? You freeze it. Still unable to dodge as Deku would slam his fist forward. Shigaraki watches as he crashes and smashes through 1, 2, and 3 layers, cracking the sky in front of him like glass, feeling the impact right away. Like Muscular, he's sent flying backwards, but because of how close Deku did it, he feels internal damage too, feeling his heart stop for a couple of seconds, his stomach completely rupturing along with his liver, one of his hearts getting crushed by his ribs, feeling helpless as he's flung backwards into a tree, flying right through it and crashing about 100 meters away. Deku knew this was bad news. He tries to run away, but once again he hears Shigaraki in the distance. Oh, that hurt, kid. You know, I'm starting to really not like you. Deku once again flies up into the air, trying to get away from Koda. Watching as Shigaraki gets up, jumping up into the sky again, copying Deku's move and jumping off the sky, using that like yellow circle thing that he does in the anime. Flying straight towards Deku as Deku holds his hand out, closing his eyes and focusing hard, remembering back to his training with Edgeshot. He feels out the sky in front of him, making it as thin as possible, bending and contorting it to the slightest degree, and eventually folding it right where Shigaraki was. As he does this, Shigaraki feels himself getting cut, unable to dodge as Deku would cut the world right around Shigaraki, taking a page out of Sukuna's book, slicing Shigaraki clean in half. Shigaraki feeling this starts to fall. Oh, what happened? About to heal up again until Deku would rush towards him, freezing him solid in the sky before punching him, using him as the thin glass that he breaks, shattering his stomach portion. Shigaraki getting PTSD from his punch from All Might, flying back indiscriminately and coughing out hella blood. Deku, after doing this though, gets a huge wave of fatigue coming over him, head still throbbing as he falls to the floor, falling to one knee and staring at Shigaraki again. How do I even beat this guy? He watches as in the distance, Shigaraki once again begins to regenerate, slowly forming his stomach and his legs again, laughing and crawling back from the pits of hell. What did I tell you, kid? You can't do anything. After he completely heals himself, he stands up again, walking towards Deku slowly until he's snuck from the side. Bakugo coming in clutch and sending a huge explosion right at his face. Shigaraki feeling this gets flung to the side. Aizawa coming in as well and cancelling his quirk. Bakugo stares Deku down. Get up, nerd! You think this fight's over? You lost your damn mind! Deku watches as Bakugo explodes in again, slamming a huge AP shot right towards Shigaraki, piercing him clean in his freshly regenerated stomach. He looks down, seeing as a small hole appears, watching as this time it doesn't regenerate, right away looking up to Aizawa. This is your doing. Feeling the pain, he jumps towards Aizawa like a rabid animal, about to claw at his face until Deku comes in clutch, jumping and directing his fist right up into the air, coming in and hitting him with a mean Mike Tyson stomach hook, cracking the sky right in front of him and sending him flying backwards again. Like you would think this rocks him, but this time Shigaraki begins to adapt, his body like a cannon forming hella hands all over his stomach, protecting him last second from any internal damage, still getting flung back, but this time more armored than ever, flying backwards before catching himself on a tree. Deku staring at this is horrified. He looks at Aizawa, who's still at his quirk active. What the hell's happening? Bakugo looks at this too. What the hell is this guy? Watching as Shigaraki begins walking him down. You three, I'm gonna kill you and take all of your quirks, starting with you. He jumps towards Aizawa, breaking the ground underneath him and slamming a punch right at Aizawa's face. Aizawa seeing this as his life flash before his eyes, getting saved this time by Deku, who once again folded the sky around him, getting there just in time and cutting Shigaraki's arm clean off, it dropping limp to the floor right before it touched Aizawa's face. Shigaraki seeing this is horrified, staring at Deku this time, who stares back at him, looking more exhausted than ever. I'll kill you for that! Screw the quirk, I don't even want it anymore. You're dead! You're dead! He flies towards Deku. Aizawa from the sidelines about to blink as Deku would cock his fist back, putting generational strength into his next attack. He stares Shigaraki down, the sky in front of him freezing, this time on a concentrated square right where Shigaraki's heart was. Knowing Aizawa only had a couple of seconds left, he had to finish this quick. He aims directly for his vital part and swings forward. This time as he collides though, the air cracks around him, the tiny impact point shattering into a million pieces, looking like Shigaraki fell to bits as he's flung backwards. Clouds above Deku flying towards where Shigaraki just was. Everyone watching as Shigaraki this time doesn't get up. Aizawa finally closing his eyes as his quirk would deactivate. All of them stopping and staring at Deku. Though he did the right thing, it was kind of weird to see him kill someone right in front of him. Aizawa, having had his eyes open for so long, would start to tear up. Bakugo walking over to Deku and helping him up. Well, if you didn't have him, then I would have got him. Whatever, Deku, but we'll put it behind us. Deku kind of stumbles up. Having used his quirk so much, his head was throbbing. He felt every single heartbeat, his fingers tingling, barely keeping himself together, staring off into space until in the corner of his eye, he sees something twitching back to life. Shigaraki. The other two are completely unaware of this, both staring at Deku, tending to his wounds as Deku would try to call out to him. Before he can though, he sees a light coming from the direction of Shigaraki, glimmering in the dark before spiking up and casting a shadow. The other two finally notice, turning around last second before Shigaraki would send out a huge attack, one that looks like the one that All For One sent to All Might, in the new season. Aizawa and Bakugo barely able to move in time as the attack would come straight towards him. Deku last second grabbing onto the sky in front of him, flicking the attack upwards, though to his surprise, it was a smoke screen. Shigaraki using this opportunity to get in close. As he does this, Deku barely sees him, seeing him there 1 second and in front of him the next. Eyes opening wide as Shigaraki would put his palm out, ready to decay Deku at any second. Knowing he had 0 time left, he throws away every single ounce of restraint he had, ignoring all the training the edge shot gave to him, folding the sky in front of him as quick as he could before letting it go indiscriminately. The attack instantly going through Shigaraki's arm, traveling from his palm all the way up to his neck, decapitating him straight away, Aizawa having cancelled his quirk just after this, which would leave Shigaraki murked. Now, in all honesty, I wanted to do this power more justice, but I don't have a lot to work with. She got into one fight in the manga and that's about it. I think Yuta used her power better than she did, in all honesty. Like, the whole infinity thing, along with the whole slash thing, is my idea. She didn't do that shit at all. Anyways, I hope you like it anyway. This was again off the top of my head, so if you like this type, then, like, let me know. This was also kind of anything like a one-shot. I just kind of wanted to get this power out of the way. Plus, I didn't want to have to script. That being said, once again, shout out to our members, Looper, Aronka, Random21, and Lightskin Shin Bob, the absolute goats. All of them have been like hella consistently supportive. I don't know, they're good to have around. Along with that, if you made it this far into the video, drop the word monkey. First one to drop the word monkey will get a pin. It's a little sneak peek to the next video. Anyways, I hope you liked this. If you did, like, sub, do comment, anything. Check out my other stuff, join the Discord, yada yada. Thank you.